I'm Spencer,
I'm Anna.
and this is Building Modern. So Anna, what are we up to?
We are building a Japanese tea house style garden shed.
That's right. So we had to build a shed. We have the yard mats, wheelbarrows, all sorts of stuff to store. So we're going to build a shed anyway. But we decided if we're building a shed, why not make it look custom since we're doing it ourselves and make it in a Japanese style due to all the other Japanese maples and everything else we have in the garden.
Yep. And we are staying under the permit requirements. So 144 square feet, maximum 15 feet tall,
Right.
and not anchored to the ground whatsoever.
So yeah, so we're doing 10 by 14.
A non-permanent foundation.
Right, and non-permanent, which means we can't do sonotubes, we can't do a concrete foundation or anything that would normally secure it to the ground. However, I think the little tie downs are acceptable. So I did put down 3 tie downs that are triangle tie downs. You drive them into the ground and they turn flat, kind of like a drywall anchor screw. And they keep the shed from lifting up, hopefully during, like if you have bad weather, hurricane, tornado, whatever it is.
Okay, so design-wise,
Yeah.
why are we going with a Japanese style shed?
Ooh, well, I mean, we have a lot of Japanese maples and conifers, and it's an aesthetic we tend to enjoy. I think you designed a more modern build at first, right?
I did, because our house is a 80s style modern cedar sided house, and I was thinking, what if we had something that went along with that, with the shed style roof, skillion style roof. And I designed it and I didn't really like it. It kind of looked a bit just generic and
Or
kind of,
pre-made.
yeah, something you could buy from a kit. So we thought, well, with our Japanese style garden plantings, that it might be
Why not
nice.
just go with it?
Yeah.
And so some of the things that are going to make it feel a little bit more Japanese in general, because it's not going to be truly Japanese. We're not in Japan. We don't have all the materials available to us, like the big, large studs and all the stuff. I guess we could if we wanted to spend $20,000 on it.
Lime plaster.
Yeah, it's a little bit harder to get here. So, the things that will make it feel Japanese, though, are the traditional, it almost looks like an English Tudor house if you don't have the right finishing. What will help it distinguish it is cedar everywhere.
I'm gonna have kind of like a skirt around the building with vertical wood, and then covering the seams of the pressure treated plywood, which is what we're using for our siding. Instead of just the sheathing with siding and on top of it, we're just painting it white.
Yeah.
We're gonna cover all the seams with cedar pieces of wood, and then the roof also is going to have cedar shakes.
That's right. We got those at a really great deal. So they're not going to be perfect.
We're a little back and forth between if we want to just have the natural cedar color that'll fade out to gray on the walls. We're going to do that for the roof, but for the walls, or if we wanted to do a shosugiban, which is actually called yakisugi, which is the kind of burnt wood cedar technique.
Right. And we've done the burnt wood technique before, though it was on pine, so it wasn't technically shosugiban or yakisugi. The sugi part of that, both of those, means cedar. You're really supposed to use cedar. That's what's supposed to last so long.
And actually, we have some sugi planted in our yard, kind
Yeah,
of.
cryptomeria. If you're from America, it's cryptomeria. So anyway, we'll see what we want to do with that. It might be a little bit too contrasty. We might just go with the light pattern, and we might end up installing some of the cedar so that it could be removed easily if we decide we wanted to burn it once it's grayed out. So that's the design side. So what are we doing as far as the actual build? Like, what have we done so far?
Well, so far we have worked on digging out the padded areas for putting in the 57 granite.
Which is
stone.
actual gravel, but you call it 57 granite. It locks them together. It's like angular.
Yeah, we pounded that down. And we put on these cap blocks, and they have to be solid blocks, not hollow core CMU blocks to stack for our foundation.
And the cap blocks are just the concrete blocks you can buy at a big box store that are about $2 a piece. And they're 3.5-ish inches tall. I found that out because I was using a rotary laser level to level them, and I would keep on measuring ahead of time. I was like, okay, so this is what it should be. It should be right here. And then I'd get all the ground level perfect. I'd put the like 4 high on, and then it would be off by like 1/4 of an inch because each block wasn't quite exactly the same.
They weren't perfect. Okay.
But that's okay. So that's done. We put in the anchor ties, and we've put down the mud sill, which is the flat boards. We have 2x8 by 16s, which are actually cut down to 14, and then 2x6x10s are what we're doing across.
And under that is a vapor barrier plastic to help keep moisture from migrating up into the building once it's built. And also it kind of goes over the blocks themselves to keep this like barrier between the block, so water does and will wick up through the block. And when it does, it's got that barrier between the block and the wood.
Right. Concrete is very porous. It likes to pull up the water. And so you just don't want the wood touching that permanently. Even though it's PT, we're thinking longevity, and we just don't want it to sit on it forever.
And we're on a slope, so hopefully the water will flow underneath and away from the building. We also installed a poor man's French drain, which is basically just some landscape fabric with some rocks in there, like tacoed, and just kind of in a trench.
Right, and when we went down in a trench, and the trench is only like a few inches wide. It's just to catch the
trench.
Yeah. Well, and there are some really giant roots. There's a poplar right next to where we're building, a very large poplar tree, and its roots are very large. I didn't want to cut them all, and so we tried to cut as few as we could, which meant that the French drain could not go all the way across. It goes to the left and it goes to the right.
So no pipe, but yeah.
And it could always go under too. I mean, we're on a hill. It's not that bad. This is the flattest area of our yard. We did end up digging down on the high side, and we still were up at least 16 inches on the low side just to get it level. So that's all the things there. We're going to tie it down. And now we're going to do the 2x16s across. Just as a note for the 2x16s, we have blocks. We have 3 rows of blocks. You don't actually need that. You could span the whole thing at 10 feet with a 2x6 without the middle ones. We have the middle ones because we're going to be doing a yard max, which is 550 pounds on its own, and we also have other heavy machinery that we might put in there. So we're just kind of doubling up. We're doing it also 12 on center for that reason as well.
And additionally, since our floor will not be a real subfloor material, it's going to be pressure treated plywood. And we picked that because it is so close to the ground, almost touching in some places. So there's no tongue and groove interlocking with that. So we're putting our blocking at the 4-foot mark and the 8-foot mark just to help support those joints that aren't landing on a joist, so they won't just like wiggle around and get a little saggy.
Right. And the only thing I'd say that we're doing, that one thing we're not doing that I might do if I was going to live in this shed.
You're going to live in the shed.
Well, we're designing
it. I know, yeah.
It's going to have 2 floors. The upper floor might be large enough for, I mean, we'll be able to stand up in it. So it could be, it's kind of like a tiny house loft. But anyway, the only thing that we're not doing, we're not going to screw down the PT wood. We're just nailing it down with galvanized nails. The screws are very expensive, and no one's living in it.
Yeah.
And so if we ever decide it's squeaky, we can always come back with screws later.
And also for a home, you would glue down the subfloor on the joists. We're not doing that here.
I don't know that the glue would even stick to the PT.
It's so wet right now.
But if it did, we're going to have a hard time moving that. But anyway, if it did, it's again a shed. It'll be fine. We are going to caulk the seams though. We do want to keep it as spider free as possible, and everything else. I know that's probably not totally possible. I realize it's finding a lost cause, but we're going to try.
Like at least critters as possible, hopefully.
Right. So that's what we're up to. I hope you join us with this adventure that we're going on. We're going to try to show every step of the way. Let us know if you have any questions. Please, again, like and subscribe so you can actually see when our content comes up. Comment, especially if you have any questions, or if you see us doing anything wrong. This likely we'll do something wrong. We kind of know what we're doing, but maybe we don't. So anyway, just thanks for watching.